In this video, we're going to find out how the wind conditions affect your casting distance and accuracy. I've got a good little tip for you to make sure you are accurate and make sure your leads and your spoms are all landing over the same spot. Stick around till the end of the video where we'll run through that for you. Well, how's that for a start to our third instalment of Casting Secrets, where this time around you will join us on the field once again, where we'll be covering everything wind related, how it affects your cast, and where you need to be clipping up to be most accurate. So first up, we want to find out just how much that wind affects your distance. Now the way we're going to do that is 3 casts in a tailwind, 3 in a headwind, and 3 in a crosswind, and then we're going to compare the differences. And then later on in the video, we're going to be clipping up at 100 yard and 160 yard, casting in headwind, tailwind, crosswind, and seeing how much the wind affects your casting accuracy. So a quick run through what I'm using today. As always, when I'm distance casting, it's my ever faithful 13-foot 3 3/4 Propel D. The line is a 0.30 12-pound line, and then we got a heavy duty braided leader. This time around it's yellow, just for a bit of visibility more than anything if you have a crack off, and on the end we got a 5-ounce lead. So that's the first 3 out there. My predictions, I'm normally around the 200 yard mark with that sort of setup and that casting technique, but we're going to measure them with the meter wheel, see how we get on, and then we'll get straight on to the crosswind and the headwind. Let's go. So that's the first 3 casts done for max distance in a tailwind. The weather was around 6 miles per hour. Like I thought, around 205 yards was the maximum cast. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip them up. I'm going to cast to 100 yard and 160 yard. Do 3 of each one. I'm going to measure them, get a bit of a reference point that we can use for the next stages when we change to a crosswind and a headwind. So a quick roundup of the tailwind section. The maximum distance was 208 yards, and then we clipped up 100 yard. We measured it out on the field, and the leads were landing at 98.5 yard. So that's our reference point for when we change in a minute. And then the 160 yard spot was landing 3 yards short at 157 yard. So now we're going to go to the other side of the field and cast in a headwind. We're going to mark those measurements out on the field and see how much difference it actually makes when you cast towards the wind, and if it does slow your lead down. I think it's going to be the line that causes the issue, but we'll see. So we're on the other side now, headwind pumping in our face, about 6 to 8 mile an hour wind. We're going to blast 3 out there for maximum distance first, see how we get on, and then we're going to get into the 100 and 160 yard clips. I don't know how well you'll be able to pick this up on camera, but my accuracy is not so bad at the minute. Cast number 1, cast number 2, and cast number 3 is right here. It's gone a little bit further, but the line is absolutely perfect. There's literally 6 inches between each line in terms of accuracy. Now, because we're in a headwind, there's been a bit more of a variant in distance. I'll go through those in a minute, but these two are pretty much identical. And this one, as you can see, it's probably gone 3 rod lengths further. Maybe the wind dropped a little bit on that one. But yeah, not a bad start. So a little roundup of where we're at up to now. We've just done the max distance into a headwind, and the distances were more than what I was expecting, to be honest. I thought I'd have probably lost maybe 20 to 30 yards in distance. Surprisingly enough, I've lost up to 49 yard is the biggest distance in drop. I did 3 casts, they were all around 156 to 165 yard. Because they were a bit inconsistent because of the wind. I did another 3 and they were the same. A couple of them went to 170 yard, but overall, I mean, the variance was between 32 and 49 yards short. So if you average it out, probably around 40 yards. Now compared to my max distance in a tailwind, I'm like 20% down on distance there. So that's definitely something to put into your angle. If you are fishing a session and the wind is due to change, if you know your max distance is 100 yards or so, you know if the wind changes, you want to be 20% down, so it'll be a good starting point so you don't bait up somewhere that you're not going to be able to reach once the wind changes. But I think the interesting one's going to come when we put the clips on now at 100, 160 yard and see if I can get it in that box. I know it's going to land short, but the question is how much shorter is it going to land? 3 in a box now at 100 yard. Now, unlike the last one, I just went 3 casts cold straight into it from 200 yards. This time around, I'm going to treat this as a fishing situation. I'm going to do my 3 casts. If any of them I'm not happy with, as I wouldn't be in a fishing situation, I'm going to redo it and try and get them all where I think would be on the spot. And then when we eventually walk down and see where they're at, we'll see how far out I am. No, I definitely wouldn't have been happy with that in a fishing situation. I'm looking forward to seeing if they're short or not. In my head, they're going to be short because they're bowing the line, the wind's pushing the line back, it's going to hit the clip earlier. That's my thought process anyway. Definitely going to be more in a crosswind, which we'll find out in a minute. Right, 3 rods are out. I think they're all in the left half of the box. So probably, I'd say they're about 6 foot apart max from the left rod to the right rod. Question is, are they short of the box? So let's have a walk down now and see where they're at. Right, no Tom Maker, but I think I might be secretly related to him because this looks like a bit of Tom. We have 1 lead here on the left hand side of the box, has a fork, my outside rod, 1 here and 1 here, all landed perfectly inside the box. So it turns out casting into a headwind doesn't affect your accuracy whatsoever. So I'm quite pleased with the 100 yard mark. Quite surprised as well that they landed in the box. For some reason I thought they were going to land short, but I'm very happy how they went, nice and accurate as well. Won't lie, it took me about 6 goes to get it, but like I said, that's how I would treat a fishing situation. If I didn't feel it hit the clip right or I didn't feel it was accurate enough, I'd just redo it. So to say that they were perfectly on the spot, I'm absolutely over the moon with that. But now we're going to go on to the 160 yard, going off what we've seen. Maybe we won't lose any distance. Accuracy should be good if it's going off what we've just done. But yeah, we'll put some out again, see how we get on. So this is a bit more of what I expected to happen with the leads landing short. As you can know, if you can see them on the camera, we got 1 just here, and then we got 2, 1 there and 1 there. Accuracy is good, you know, fishing situation, I'd be more than happy with that. These 2 are probably not even 12 inches apart, and for a 160 yard cast, I'll take that all day. But about a rod length short, maybe because there was more line out, there was more bow, it's caused it to land short. There was a bit more line blowing back in my face as I hit the clip. But we have got a good little tip for you to make sure you are accurate and make sure your leads and your spoms are all landing over the same spot. But you'll have to stick around till the end of the video where we'll run through that for you. But now it's on to the big one, the crosswind. This is the one I've been waiting to see. How much shorter is it going to land in a big crosswind? We'll do the same max distance, 100 yard and 160 yard. Right, so we're on to everybody's least favourite wind condition, the dreaded crosswind. And you will find out why very shortly when you see the results. So first up, max distance. Right, so that's the max distance done for a crosswind. The distance was a little bit further than I thought it was going to be, 185 yard. All 3 very consistent, but the accuracy the accuracy wasn't there with those casts. The wind took it. They were quite spread apart, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in a minute when we do the 100-yard and the 160-yard test. And mark my words, these ain't going in the boxes. I don't even think Tom would get these in himself. Right, the distance is bigger every time. It's just getting it on the spot, getting the accuracy. Right, so there's my 3 casts done in a crosswind at 100 yard. Now, it was a little bit surprising. They did land short, around half a rod length to a rod length short on each one of them. Now, they were still accurate in terms of direction. You know, I treated it as if I would in a fishing situation. It took me around 7 or 8 goes to get all 3 in line, where I would be happy if I was fishing. But like I say, around half a rod length to a rod length short. Now, the reason I thought they were going to be even more short than what they were is the crosswind created a massive bow towards my right hand side, but it didn't go as short as I thought. Now, the reason behind it, the only thing I can put my finger on is, rather than the bow being up in the air, the bow's probably very similar, but it's just tilted on its side a little bit, coming round at an angle. So really, you've not lost too much in that sort of crosswind. With the wind speed that we had was only 6 miles an hour. Obviously, the bigger the wind, the further it's going to pull that bow, and I think that's where you're going to get more of a dramatic decrease in distance. But we're going to move on to the 160 yard mark, where we're going to lose a lot more than half a rod to rod length due to the extra distance. But no, it's going to be interesting to see how much shorter it's actually going to be. So that's the 100 yard spot taken care of. Now we're going to go for the big one, the 160, where we should see a bit more of a dramatic decrease in distance and accuracy. So here it goes. Right, and that wraps up the 160 yard spot. Now, getting them inside this box was a difficult challenge. The distance just wasn't going to be there with the bow that was in the line. I don't know if you can see him. We're about a rod and a half to 2 rod lengths short of the middle of the spot. The closest I could get was this one just here. It's just inside the spot. I mean, it'd still do a fish in that sort of rod length square, but it's massive. The difference compared to what it was at 100 yards, massive. You're like nearly 2 rod lengths short. And the wind hasn't been savage, maybe 6 to 8 mile an hour crosswind. It's difficult to give an exact formula on how to calculate how much line to add on, but like I said, there's a little tip we can show you to get those where they need to be. While we've got a little bit of time, what we're going to do is we're going to stick a spom on, just out of interest. We're going to send one long in a tailwind, one in a crosswind, one in a headwind, just to give you another bit of a variable, a bit of an insight as to how far spoms go and how they're affected by the wind conditions. Well, it's a slight scenery change. Just after that last cast with a spom, the heavens opened up and we got absolutely soaked, so we've now retreated back to the lake. So the results from the spom, I just did 1 cast in each direction. The headwind was 167 yard, the crosswind was 185 yard, and the tailwind was the biggest cast of the day, and it was 209 yard. Now you'd probably think, why has the spom gone further than the lead? For these 3 casts, the wind picked up a little bit, so it was about 8 to 9 mile per hour. So yeah, that's why there's been a bit of an increase in the spom. So to summarise how we've got on today, overall I lost about 10% casting in a crosswind, and I lost 20% casting in a headwind. So we can see that the absolute killer of distance is definitely a headwind, and the accuracy was certainly most affected by the crosswind. We was landing around a rod length short when the wind picked up on the 100 yard spot, and around up to 2 rod lengths short on the 160 yard spot. Now that was quite a mild wind most of the time. It was fluctuating between maybe 4 and 8 mile an hour up and down, and you could see when it was an 8 mile an hour it was 2 rod lengths short. When it was a little bit less, it was a little bit closer to the spot. So I dread to think how far off the spot it'd be if you was in 10, 15, 20 mile an hour crosswind. It's certainly something I want to try next time I'm out on the field. If we've got a big wind, I'll certainly give it a go and maybe add it on to the next video. Now, I did mention earlier on that there is a little tip that you can do to ensure that you're landing on your spot, especially in a crosswind. And now that tip simply is using marker elastic. Right, so how the marker elastic works, what I like to do is if I'm fishing 3 on a spot, which most of the time I do, that's my sort of go-to fishing, especially when I'm range fishing, I'll put 3 rods out on the spot, I'll tighten up to the rig, clip my bobbins on, and then I will attach my marker elastic. I'll just do a 4-turn grinner knot, and I will attach the elastic between the butt guide and the next guide up, somewhere around the join of the rod. And then I know that's my set position for every time my rods go out. Now, if the wind does change, as we saw earlier on, you're going to land short of your spot, depending on how powerful the wind is. So then what I like to do, if I cast out in a crosswind, I'll tighten up to the rod, tighten up to the rig, and then the marker elastic will obviously be closer to the reel, if not on the reel, because you're going to have more bow in the line. And then either, if I've got space, I will walk the rod back and I will see how much extra line I've got. I will simply then just add that on to my wrap sticks when I'm wrapping up. I'll then recast the rod, tighten up to the rig, and see exactly where that marker elastic is in relation to where it should be. If it's a little bit short, I'll adjust, and the same if it's a little bit longer. And if you're a bit restricted on space, you can simply do it like you would with the marker float, just under your clutch, peel off a foot at a time, and then you can work it out that way. And one other little tip that we all know is if you're not fishing too far, you can simply just use a marker float. Now that can be a little bit difficult when you're fishing at range, because it is difficult to gauge how close you are to a marker float when it's in line. Obviously it's a lot easier to see side to side, but the distance is tough to gauge when you're anything above the sort of 100-yard mark. So yeah, that's my sort of top tip for casting accurate in a crosswind. Now, like most of us, we keep an eye on the weather before we come fishing. We know if there's going to be a wind change, temperature change, pressure change, all that kind of stuff. Me personally, if I know there's going to be a wind change, as we saw, I was like 20% down on distance. That's one little tip that I would always advise you to do. Never fish your maximum range. Always fish with a view of the wind changing, especially if you know it's going to change. So me personally, I'd be 20% down if I was fishing extreme range, because it can certainly impact your fishing throughout the session. So I do hope you are enjoying this little series of videos that we're doing. We are still after your suggestions. We definitely want to know your thoughts and what you would like to see. We have got a couple of plans for some level line casting. We want to be testing the stretching monos in relation to where your spom's landing, so baiting accuracy. But we definitely do want to hear your suggestions of any other thoughts you may have. And as always, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.